Holy Father, thank you for your glorious might, your strength, your wisdom, and all of the things that you've done for us, that which we know and which we don't know. I ask you by the name of your holy child, Yeshua Jesus the Christ, that you would help me to be able to teach this class in such a way that it would be beneficial to all that listen, and that I would represent you properly in teaching this class. Help me, I pray. Help me to do what needs to be done. Amen. Amen. And even so, amen. One of the things that I've seen in this going through this lesson tonight is that it's got some things in it that no doubt will be difficult for some people to understand. But the truth has to be told. So, Father, I ask you to help me to tell the truth. Do it in such a way that you will be pleased. You all know that we've been going through and they've set aside this time for what is Black History Month. And because they've set this time aside for what is called Black History Month, we should take advantage of it. I believe, at least I'm taking advantage of it, but I'm not doing it in such a way that I ignore the Holy Scriptures. That would, to me, that would be something that's egregious. So the first thing that I want to do is go ahead and open up my scriptures, open up my page so that you all can see, excuse me, what I'm working with. I wish I did bring some water in here, so I need to get some. I know they made a lot of noise, but I had forgotten that sometimes when I talk, I need water. As you can see, I got a lot of it. Here's my question for tonight. Did I open up my screen so that you all could see? I think not, because it seemed like all of a sudden my thirst came over me. So share screen. Now we're in there. My title for tonight, if you look on in the middle of my panel, it says, does the evangelical Jesus not see color or victimization of her Black people? If he doesn't, he's not the biblical Son of God. And I mean that with all sincerity. If he doesn't see color, if the evangelical Jesus that I'm always told to preach, if the evangelical Jesus that allowed our people to be brought over here like we were, does not see color, he's not fit to be a judge. He's not fit to be our Lord and Master. He would be a tyrannical, weak, effete person that we worship, that has no ability to save, to do justice, or to bring about righteousness in the earth. Let's go into a scripture right quick. In Psalms 9 and 17, listen to what the psalmist says. He says, the wicked shall be turned into hell. When it says the wicked shall be turned into hell, believe me, what it is talking about are wicked people. It's not talking about a wicked dog. It's not talking about a wicked rock. It's talking about wicked people, wicked nations, wicked kings, judges, whatever it is. They said they shall be turned into hell, Sheol, and all of the nations that forget God, that forget Elohim. Listen to verse 18. For the needy shall not always be forgotten. The expectation of the poor, which is not only food, clothing, and shelter, but it is also justice in the face of injustice and oppression. Because many times, if the injustice and the oppression wouldn't have taken place, many of the people would not be poor. They would not be oppressed. So it says, for the needy, Psalms 9:17, shall not always be forgotten. The expectation or the hope of the poor shall not perish forever. One of the things that I've seen over the years, I've heard people make some statements of asininity and perversity. But let me read this to you right quick again. This is the one paragraph that I've been reading because I find it to be so functional, so structurally sound that we need to be able to look at it. What is the founding of America based upon? The founding of America is based on social constructs. How is the nation going to be socially set up? The Most High set up a social construct between he and what is called the B'nai Elohim, which we call angels, cherubim, seraphim, watchers, etc., between himself and mankind, and what the relationship would be between those. Let me show you what man has done over here in what we call America. In Dr. Claude Anderson's book, A Black History Reader, it says, what is a social construct and how was it used in the making of America? Whether you know it or not, every nation has a social construct. You have a social construct in your family, whether you decided what it would be by choice or you let it be decided by default, it doesn't evolve. It doesn't evolve. Evolution was something that was used to say that we were not humans, and I will not go with that word. Other people will, that's on them. I speak for me. It says a social construct is a purposely created idea formed by one group with authority that defines another group with a lesser or no authority. A social construct frames the perception of and the relationship between the groups. It becomes part of the culture, infused into social norms and practices of every part of society, including legal, educational, financial, political, and interpersonal relationships. The most important social construct in America is race. The founding fathers purposely constructed a social position of blacks and whites. They made that social construct of blacks and whites. Blacks were to be the property that served whites, and whites were to be the only beneficiaries of the new country that they created in Philadelphia when they locked the door. I believe it was 1787. It was either 1787 or 1789. It's one of those years. Because the next year, once they made their social construct, they had an immigration and naturalization law. You can look that up for 1790. And then in 1791, they made a Bill of Rights, and it did not include black people, those of the lesser sort, that poor class, the terms that they did not use to and say blacks. They gave us ambiguous terms. If the Son of God does not see color, and that's a construct that was made to identify us in this country and to see them. When I say if he doesn't see color, I'm talking primarily black and white people. This we call a cellular phone. This we call a book. This is called, I think it's called a trackball. Now, do you think that the Most High God doesn't know that this is a trackball or that this is a book or that's a cell phone? Now, these are the names that we give to it. If it was Russia, whatever the name is, The substance stays the same, the name can change because of the languages. The Most High made languages like that. The thing that you see my picture on is a camera. He knows what that is. How dare we think that he don't know what word we affix to objects, whether it's the wind that we can't touch but can touch us, or the sun in the sky, or the fish in the sea, or the fowls in the air. Whatever name we affix to something doesn't change what it is. So when we have a country that have made the social construct of blacks and their job is to serve whites, and we make the construct of white and they're to be the only beneficiaries on this new land that they created. If in fulfilling the social constructs that have been set up, we see that one group or both groups go against the teaching of the Most High God, and we say that the Most High God can't see that social construct. All that he can see is love. All that he can see is himself. All that he can see is God. All that he can see is righteousness. That's a God damnable lie. Revelation 21:8 does not say that God sees the sin and not the sinner. It doesn't say that God would judge the sin and not the sinner. When you read it, you'll say, but the fearful, the unbelieving, the murderers, the abominable, the sorcerers, the idolaters, and all liars shall have their part in the lake of fire, which burns with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. It doesn't say murder, adultery, fornicators, not fornicators, fornication, which is the noun. Lying will have its part. Whatever that noun is that is practiced by we people, it becomes affixed to us. If I fornicate, I become a fornicator. If I adulterate, I become an adulterator. If I murder, I become a murderer. And when the Most High God judges the murderer, the murder that was resident inside of me because I didn't keep his will be judged. How dare one say that the Most High God can't see color? I'm going to dispel that tonight. But what I really want to do, I want to go in and I'm going to try to do this in 10 minutes. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to show today, without a shadow of a doubt, that the Son of God has to see color. Because there was a multiplicity of crimes, murders, rapes, and everything that you can just about imagine done under color. Extortion done under color. Murder done under color. And it was set up by we on earth. You think because my name has been given a Greek name, Timothy, Timeo, Theos, to honor God, he doesn't see me as Timothy, but he sees me as just a spirit, whereas he talks to Jacob and know what Jacob is. Your name will no longer be Jacob. I know what it is now, but I'm giving you a new one. You will no longer be Abram, he told our father. You will be Abraham. Does he change women's name? Your wife will no longer be Sarai. It'll be Sarah. Again, does the evangelical Jesus not see color or victimization of our Black people? I've heard people that gain a certain amount of prestige and a certain amount of money in the earth, they have the nerve to say that Black people are not victims. Well, I've heard it said, but is it true? I don't want to just say what I want to say. I want to make it where we can look at it together. Let me make this page a little bigger. I don't know why it got small. I want to go into what is called the Oxford English Dictionary. I had it opened up, but that's okay. I'll go here to my table of contents. I'll open it back up again. The Oxford English Dictionary. Victim. What is the definition of a victim? Because I hear evangelical conservatives, and I hear people that have made it in Hollywood or that have made it in music or have a certain amount of money to say that the Black people are not a victim. How dare one say something as if this is something that the Most High God would condone? A victim, a person harmed, injured, or killed as a result of a crime, accident, etc. Have we ever fit into that? I will submit to you that if any person that has been harmed by the social construct of race, insofar as to make sure that we were to do work for the group that had all power and authority, and no matter what they did to us, we had to produce for them because all of the benefits of this land should be theirs. Whatever happened to their children and their ancestors, their, what do you call them, descendants, if they have suffered loss because of it, and other people of the major group have gained and have kept the gain and have accumulated more because of the gain, I would submit to you that one is a recipient of plunder and it was passed on, and the other is a recipient of victimization and oppression, and it was passed on. I don't care if I was worth 50 trillion. How long did it take to get there, and what was the cost? So a victim is a person harmed, injured, or killed as a result of a crime, accident, etc. A person who has been tricked, a person who has come to feel helpless and passive in the face of misfortune. When a Black person feels like that, the evangelicals say, just believe Jesus. Don't cry out for justice. And yet those that were of the Confederates, of the Confederacy, they cried out and said that the North, it came down here, scallywags, carpet baggers, interferers, and they fought a war. And after the war was over and they lost, they took it out on Black people. It's called a Reconstruction period. It also says an animal or a person killed as a religious sacrifice. I submit to you that it got so bad in America that lynching a person almost every week, on Sundays many times, and people standing up in their Sunday clothes. And when Mr. Hose, Sam Hose, was killed, I have it in one of my books. One of the parishioners said, "Glory be to God! Glory be to God!" And the preachers would come out and they advertised it all in the Atlanta Journal and Constitution. Do you think that the Most High God didn't see color when the only reason that that man received that injustice was because his skin was Black? Because if he can't see color, he can't see why you did what you did. He can only see that you did what you did. But when David did his sin against Uriah the Hittite, who was a Black man, children of Heth are Black, Hethite, he sent a parable through Nathan's mouth. He said a traveler came to a rich man, and this rich man was going to do some hospitality. He was going to take care of that man's desire to have food and comfort. And he had great flocks, but he decided, I want to keep mine. So he took of his neighbor's little ewe lamb, just only had one, and took care of that man's desire. Now that man should have had to give 2 sheep for the one. If I'm mistaken, Leviticus would tell me it would have been 4 at the max, but I'm saying 2. And David was angry. I'm right, it was 2. David was angry. He'd have restored the one plus add another. David said, surely, as I live, that man that have done this thing grieves my soul. He's going to pay back 4 for 1, and he's going to be put to death because he longed, he didn't want to give up his own and took that other man's. The Most High God gave that to Nathan to tell David, and David said he's going to pay 4 for 1 and his life is going to be taken. I just want you to understand that the Most High God saw why he did it, not just that he did it. And Nathan said, you are the man. 2 Samuel chapter 12. When somebody tell you you're not a victim, tell them to quit having their support meetings every time something go wrong. Tell them to quit crying and saying me too. Tell them to quit crying whenever you have migrants come over their city. Tell them to stop crying when some kind of bill is passed that goes against the hegemony or what is the supremacy of the major group, because some politician is trying to curry favor by a company or some other group that he likes. You get to hear them cry victim when something like that happened, or when somebody come in and kill one of theirs. I want you to see as we go along, if he doesn't see color, if he don't see black or white, he's not the Son of God, because that's the title that was affixed. That was the title that was affixed to this country. That was the title that was affixed in the 1790 Immigration and Naturalization Act, that it doesn't just have to be your color. It's a status, a construct that can be given to black people or the white people of other countries when they come here, because the people that were already here, that was under that social construct, their work, their labor, their time, their bodies, their energy was only to serve them in this land. Let's look and see if the Most High God believes in victimization, and that people that have victimized and oppressed have to turn that thing around. I don't want to stay here long because I want to start giving proof, but I don't just want to give you the proof and I'm telling you that is wrong. I need us to understand. I'm coming from the vantage point that the Most High God knows what he says. He says what he means, and his word is authoritative. And that's what I take as my absolute construct for making statements, like this. So let's go to Luke chapter 19, verse number 1. You all should know about this. Zacchaeus, I'm not going to take a long time on it. So he said he's reading it kind of fast. Well, you can rewind it. It says, and Jesus entered and passed into Jericho, and behold, there was a man named Zacchaeus, which was chief among the publicans or tax collectors, and he was rich. And he sought to see Jesus, who he was, and could not for the press. He had too many people there, because he was of little stature, a little man. And he ran therefore and climbed up into a sycamore tree. A sycamore tree is the same thing we could call a fig tree. So some of you all know how big they get and how big they don't get. And it says to climb up into a sycamore tree to see him, for he was to pass that way. And when Jesus came to the place, he looked up and saw him. And he said unto him, Zacchaeus, make haste and come down, for today I must abide at thy house. And he made haste and came down, and he received him joyfully. And when they saw it, they all murmured, saying, he is going to be a guest with a man that is a sinner. He is going to be a man that we identify as a sinner. We can see what a sinner is. We know what a sinner is. We know what his job is. We don't have a problem seeing what a sinner is. We are judging the man, not just what he does. And Zacchaeus stood and said, Lord, listen, behold, half of my goods I give to feed the poor. Now, that's what he says he's going to do. Unlike the rich young ruler I talked about the other day from Mark chapter 10. He says, I give to the poor, and if I have taken anything by any man by false accusation, see that word sycophantio, that is extortion. If I've taken anything by swindling or force or what you would call extortion, I restore it to him fourfold. Fourfold is more than what was required in many things. But he says, there's nothing that I want more than to restore my relationship with you. And I'm not just going to ask you for forgiveness, because that's not how it works. I'm not going to just go and say, I confess my sins and I'm going to have you as Lord. I'm going to take what I have and I'm going to leave it. I'm just going to leave it right here, and I'm going to go and restore that and be reconciled to my brother and do right by him. And listen what the master says. He says, in anything I've taken by false accusation, I restore to him fourfold. And Jesus said unto him, this day is salvation come to this house, for as much as he is also a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man is come to seek and save that which is lost. That man was lost, and the things that had been taken by oppression and extortion was lost. Remember, he came to set the captive free, set at liberty them that are bruised, and to comfort. The Son of Man is come to seek and to restore that which is lost. Case in point. Is there anything when the Most High God looks upon the construct of America, that you have one group with all authority and power and another group with no authority and power, and the construct that was set up that was able to be upheld by laws, by militia, people with guns with those that didn't have guns, that would allow somebody by extortion to take from others that were black and just take it and do whatever they want to do with it, and he couldn't see the color? If he's the same yesterday, today, and forever, as I've read when I taught the book of Hebrews, Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach, the same yesterday, today, and forever, do you think that Zacchaeus did what was right and that was salvific? And evangelicals can say, just forget about it, that was in the past. Then why do we have Indian treaties? Why are we sending money to Crimea? Why are we sending money to the Ukraine? Why have we sent money to Germany? Why have we sent money all over the world when it's been stated or been found and we got caught doing things that were oppressive and extorting resources from others? Well, let's look at what the Bible says. What did Zacchaeus know to be able to do that? In Leviticus, the very books of the Bible that they tell us not to read, to unhitch ourselves from, that many evangelicals have taught even our own black people during Black History Month to get rid of. You can listen to them or you can listen to the word of God. You can listen to them or you can listen to the one that died for your sin, yea, rose, rather to be able to judge the quick and the dead at his appearing in kingdom and empower those of us that walk with him to be able to rule and judge with him. What did he know? Well, in Leviticus 6:1, it says, and Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, if a soul sin and commit a trespass against the Lord and lie unto his neighbor in that which was delivered to him to keep, or in a fellowship has taken away by violence and has deceived his neighbor, has there anything under the social construct of black and white that has been taken from us? Anything? How about life, freedom, liberty, wives, children, innocence, hopes, dreams, legacy to leave to our children? And it has been, look, or have found that which was lost. How many black people in my book called the Kidnapping Club that were free were taken up by traffickers and taken down to the South and made slaves, and found that which was lost, and lieth concerning it, and sweareth falsely. In any of all these things that a man doeth, sinning therein, then it shall be because he is sinned and is guilty, and that he shall restore that which he has violently taken away. What does Zacchaeus say? If I've taken, first of all, I'm going to give up half of my kingdom, or 1/4 of my kingdom. Then anything that I've done like this, I'm going to fulfill this righteous law because I've defrauded. It says anything He is violently taken away of the thing that he has deceitfully gotten, or that was delivered to him to keep, or was lost, which he has found, or that which he has sworn falsely, he shall restore. How many of us were told that we were the sons of Ham, or we were the sons of Canaan, or that God had given a manifest destiny for this to be done, and they were civilized in us? Isn't that swearing falsely? How many of us have been told, and our ancestors was told, that the Most High God made some people the head and not the tail, and that we were the tail, and our only job was to please them and to do the work that was supposed to be done? And if not, he gave them the right to beat us with that 6-inch or about the half-inch thick leather strap and beat us with the bullwhip. That was a lie. It was false. But they were Christians. And people had a man that they get upset with me because I called it Christian. I said, listen, let me tell you something. This is the Christianity that was brought to America. You don't get to identify it and roll backwards and do it. It says, he even shall restore it in principle, and shall add a fifth part more thereunto, and give it to him to whom it appertaineth. This is one of the problems when I ask people. I say, if God would have put you in charge of doing justice in the land, and somebody took $100, what would you make them do? Some say forgive. Some say, well, just forget about it. Some say make it pay back. Some say put them in jail. That's not what the Most High says. The Most High says restore, restitution. You pay it back and you add a fifth to it. That covers any loss of the use of what you had. Any damage would have been added thereto and accrued. And this is why Jesus could say, I believe it is Matthew 5:23. I don't want to turn to it. He said, but I will turn to it because I know people don't read the Bible. It says, in that day, it says, and give to him to whom it appertaineth in the day of his trespass offering. In other words, before you get your offering made before the Most High God, restore. How many evangelicals are still beneficiaries of colleges, Baptist seminaries, Methodist seminaries, large estates that were built because slaves were stolen, estates that have books that were written because slaves were sold and used to pay the preacher, and that was whipped and raped? It says that he should bring his trespass offering to the Lord, a ram without blemish, and that was expensive, of the flock without estimation, for a trespass offering unto the priest. Now, so I say that the Old Testament, Tim. Well, you can be a fool continually if you want to. If you're listening to my voice, I doubt you got another 100 years to live. I'll just tell you like that. Because if you're listening to my voice, there's a certain age you are. And I would submit to you, I don't believe you're going to live that many more years past 100, past that. But that's what the Messiah says in Matthew 5:23. Therefore, if you bring, got to go up one more verse. No, that you're good enough. It says, therefore, if you bring your gift to the altar and remembrance that thy brother has an ought against thee. Some of the lies that they told, they extort that we weren't people, that we were animals. It says, if you remember your brother has an ought against thee, and definitely our legal system, which perpetuated that, leave there your gift before the altar and go thy way and be reconciled to thy brother. I just read the reconciliation process in Leviticus. And then come and offer your gift. Let's move to Deuteronomy 25:4. Moses said, you see, they called us chattel, you all. They said that we were animal. That's why one of the writers back then said when a white man would have sex with a black woman, it's confusion, because they're going to, because having sex with an animal was called confusion, and it was the death penalty. But if you don't understand the scripture say that, I think Robert Louis Dabney said that. But he says, thou shalt not muzzle the ox that tread out the corn. If an ox is out there working himself to plow your thing, he can eat as much of the grain as he wants to. Why did I say grain when it says corn? Well, when it says he treads out the corn, it is talking about grain. Open this up, ESV, because under interlinear, it's not that. You will not muzzle the ox when it treads out the grain. That's what it says here. Now, what I want you to do, I want you to look with me in 1 Corinthians 9:9. Paul is going to quote that and show you that which was written in the Oldest Testament is applicable, and it goes to what we call the New Testament. As you see, my thing is taking a minute to flip, but I don't know why it's doing that. But what I'll do is, if it doesn't come back up in a second, I quote it to you. So it says, Moses says, it is written in the law of Moses. I just read it unto you. It says, thou shalt not muzzle the ox that treadeth out the corn. Does God take care of oxen? Let's see, something that my wife put me in a thing, and don't read this out loud. Slow down, sweetie. Okay. She said I'm going too fast. Thank you, little bit. I did say bit, you all, okay? Little bit. She's a short person. It says, you shall not, it says in the law of Moses, you shall not muzzle the mouth of the ox that treads out the corn. Does God care for oxen? Does God take care of oxen? Of course he does. But then he says, or saith he altogether for our sake? For our sakes, no doubt, this is written that he that ploweth should plow in hope, and he that thresheth, get up the grapes and all of that, should thresh in hope, and should be partaker in this hope. And what he was talking about in particular at this time is that they would teach, they would preach, they would go on journeys, and they had to pay. And he says, even an ox, the Most High take care of them and feed them and give them what they need. How much more does he do that for a man that's working for him? I submit to you, the Most High God is saying, don't steal from that animal. How much more do you think that he cares about our ancestors that was stolen? The horror stories you read of them not having enough to eat, or that woman that was found in Mississippi. And there's a documentary, and it's called The Cotton Picking Truth. Say it again, Tim. The Cotton Picking Truth. Back in the 60s, she didn't know that they were free, and she had escaped, and they would throw rancid food in a bucket, not a big tub like what they would wash clothes in, and they would have to just reach in and eat it. They would eat bugs and things in the house, etc. This is the thing. So the document is The Cotton Picking Truth. It's a documentary. I expect somebody to look at it and see it. Now, I want to take you and show you something. When you hear that Black people, that we're just lazy, we're not victims, we victimized ourselves. We not only are lazy, but we haven't taken advantage of all the advantages that are here in America. If that statement is made, is that we had opportunity to take advantage of all of the things that are in America, then that person is not doing righteous judgment. And I am going to prove that. But I want to show you a couple of things first. I want to show you what is done to an animal to make an animal unable to take care and fend for itself, or to be used in war again. And I'm going to submit to you that this is what has been done to our people. Now, in the beautiful book of Genesis, in the book of Genesis says, "Oh my Lord, come not into their secret." That word here is their counsel, because what we are talking about is Israel is getting ready to bless his sons before he dies. And he's talking about Simeon and Levi. He says, come not into their secret. If I read it in ESV, I might not even have to change the words. Open. It said, let my soul come not into their counsel, O my glory. Be not joined to their company. For in their anger they killed men. In their willfulness they hamstrung oxen. They did this on their own. Now, for those that don't know what that means, that they hamstrung oxen, I want to show it to you, but I need just a second because it looks like I don't have the ability to pull up my share, but I have to go through another way to do it. So I like to win. There we go. So when a horse, it will be the same thing for an ox, is hamstrung. It simply means it's crippled in the legs and can no longer be used in battle. He's going to talk about where Joshua had to do that. God was saying to Joshua, I have been the source of all your victories, not horses and chariots. I do not want you to start depending on horses and chariots. So hamstring these horses and burn the chariots. Here's another one. What does hamstrung mean? You say all I did was type in hamstrung in the Bible. Hamstrung, the practice used by victorious armies to ensure that their enemies' horses could not be used in battle again. It involves severing the leg tendon on the horse so that it could not gallop. It's like imagine you getting cut in the back of your leg so you don't have the power between your buttocks and your thigh and the back of your thigh. It's called your bicep femoris to be able to move, to go. Though it was a cruel act, many of the horses could still be used in farming. I want to go back to the scriptures now, and I want to show you why I brought that up. Because if I don't show you why I brought that up, you may be thinking I'm talking about just horses. I'm not talking about just horses. I'm talking about something that was done that by the group with authority did to Black people in particular. All right. So Joshua 11 talks about it. Joshua 11 and 9 talks about it. I'm not going to go on and read it, but since you kind of saw some of that when I was looking in Google. But here's the last one that I want to give you on that kind of topic here. I want you to look at Deuteronomy chapter. If you see this thing on my screen doing this, it's acting as if is trying to update, but I thought I updated it before. Okay, let me look and see one more time if it's trying to do that. It's not. Okay. It says in Deuteronomy chapter 23 and 15, thou shalt not deliver unto his master the servant which is escaped from his master unto thee. He shall dwell with thee, even among you in that place which he shall choose in one of your gates, where it liketh him best, thou shalt not oppress him. I've already talked about, and we're not going to go into this tonight. America made laws that if a slave escaped, you better bring him back. If you didn't, you could get beaten. Slave would get beaten. Sometimes the churches would brand him with an R in the face or an SPC. He can no doubt get as many as 500 lashes with a strap. Yet the Most High God saw that you didn't do right by him because he was Black. That's a victim. I'm not going to go through all of them because I don't find it necessary. I got other scriptures to talk about not sending a person empty. I'll just give you one without reading it. When Jacob got away from Laban and Laban chased him down, the Most High God told Laban not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad. Jacob told him, you changed my wages all of these times, 10 times. And if it had not been for my God talking to you, and King James say yesternight, you'd have sent me away empty. That was something that the Most High God did not want. I want to take you and show you something. If you look at this is called an implicit association test. This implicit association test, I need you to see because this is something that a lot of times we don't know what's available. I want you to see this because of the fact there are some things that have gone on in our world that happen to us that we're not aware of. So let me bring this here. I'm opening it up and share it. And I've given you the name of it. So if you want to write it down, it's a implicit association test. What this test is, it's a test set up by Harvard Implicit Association Test. It will allow you to go through, I think it's about a few pages, and you just answer questions based on stuff that you probably don't even think about. And it's going to evaluate how much race, Black or white, has been given into your subconsciousness, how you see the world. So the Harvard Implicit Association Test from Harvard University, you can take the test free online.
What it'll do is it measure how you see association. You know, like sometimes somebody say blue, what do you think of? Horse, what do you think of? It's done like that, okay? And the reason that this man used this, and the man that I'm talking about is Sean Rochester. He wrote a book, and the book is called The Black Tax. And in writing that book called The Black Tax, he's going to show how much it costs to be black in America. So his name is Sean D. Rochester. The book is called The Black Tax. So some of the things that he's saying is going to come from that Harvard thing, is going to come from a lot of documentations of things that has happened to hamstring black people to make us victims, because remember, the original social construct for us to understand black history was for us to be servants to the master class. Not master because of intelligence, but master because they have the guns, and that they were cool enough to come and take this land from people that had not done anything to them, and cruel enough to come and take us from the lands in which we live. So it's Sean Rochester. The book is called The Black Tax, The Cost of Being Black in America. Remember now, Zacchaeus was made righteous after he saw fit to do restitution and acknowledge his wickedness. He understood how to do right because he knew what Leviticus had said. But when we talk to people in our day, what do they say? Jesus does not see color. He doesn't see victimization. All he sees is sin. He is pretty much described as a wicked, ungodly judge. So let's look at some of what's in this book, The Black Tax, because I need you to see these kind of things. Let me look at my time. Okay, good. What I want to do is I want to start with, if you look in, you all can see my book, right? Because I don't see the green screen around it. It's okay if they don't say anything, you all. I can look up right quick.
No.
Okay, because I wasn't seeing it, so that's what I wanted to do. Go back to share, new share. Thank you, Precious. You can see it now. Okay, so I'm
Yes, sir.
gonna let you see the cover. This is the name of the book. I recommend I recommend it. Everyone buys it. I have it in Audible as well as print, and I have it here in the Kindle. All right. So by me having gone through the book, I'm not going to go through these first, but he talks about it in the real estate market. Okay. He didn't come up with this on his own, but I want you to see not only oppression, victimization, but I want you to see what has happened to us in color, black and white, to be able to understand that we've been hamstrung. And by being hamstrung, because 3 or 4 people get ahead, that doesn't mean anything. That was a thing called meritorious manumission, where many of the people that were in slavery got to eat a butter biscuit, got to have better places to be able to go and do what they did because they pleased master. They saved his house from being burned down. They saved his wife. They saved their the child. They told it on the other slaves when they got ready to run away. It's called meritorious manumission. And once that was set up in Virginia, they stopped the slave revolts to a greater or lesser extent. So it says researchers at Harvard University have long studied the effect of implicit bias and created an online implicit association test. I showed you that to measure biased attitudes and beliefs of people that are unwilling or unable to report. It says while taking the IAT for race, a person must categorize good and bad words with images of black and white people. The more quickly a person can associate positive words with white or black people, the stronger their implicit preference for that group. The race IAT was taken by over 3.3 million people between 2002 in 2015. And the researchers have found that almost 70% of Americans have an implicit preference for white people over black. Now, in a world where the Bible said, when it comes to people, let there be no partiality, nor hypocrisy in judgment. It says the data shows that only 2% of Americans have a strong implicit preference for Black people. In the real estate market, it says the Journal of Urban Economics. See, I just want you to understand, I'm not making stuff up. But you want to talk about Black history. We want to talk about the Most High God. And do you think that he always wants us to have hope vanish or vanquish? Do you think he always wants us to be under the foot of people? If he did, why did he say, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and turn from their wicked ways and seek my face, I will hear from heaven. I'll forgive their sins and heal the land. But he's not going to just do it because we feel like the time is up. He gave the procedure. Well, the Journal of Urban Economics published a study in 2016 that examined the extent to which discrimination still exists in the lending industry for residential real estate. Because I'm familiar with this, I'm going to kind of tell you when I do part two, I will mostly spend my time on giving more information. But I didn't want to just give you something and anybody can give you history. But anyway, it said they had white sounding names. The ones with white sounding names, they were shown more properties, they were shown more houses, which actually saved them time. And those that didn't, it says it cost the Black people more time and they were shown lesser value houses. It said you may be tempted to think that people with Black sounding names had worse credit and therefore got less response. But this was not the case. The potential applicants all had similar credit scores and credit histories. Researchers found that the level of discrimination was quite high for characteristic race. They shouldn't matter. Relative to what really mattered was the credit scores. Let me come down here where I got it highlighted. It says not only did the folks in the study have similar credit scores, but they had similar payment histories, utilization rates. In other words, how much credit do you use? Because if you use all your credit, whenever they look at it, they don't want to lend to you. It said, yet borrowers with Black sounding names were treated quite differently. In fact, the extent of the difference between the treatment between the applicants with white sounding names and Black sounding names had the same impact as if the applicants with Black sounding names had a FICO score that was 70% lower. He said, can you imagine having good credit and being treated as if you had poor credit? And then you come down and he says, you are likely to receive high interest rate mortgage at an interest rate 1.5 higher than you would based on if you were white. Now, what he does is he'll go and show you how much that will cost you over a lifetime. Then I'm going to show you where he shows that this happens. He says Bank of America, which is a massive bank, was sued by the Justice Department and ultimately paid $335 million to settle a lawsuit. Bank of America had overcharged 200,000 minority borrowers with higher rates and fees than white customers with the same credit scores. What did Dr. Claude Anderson say? He says it becomes a part of our culture, infused into the social norms and practices of every part of society, including legal, that was illegal, educational, financial, and political. This is hamstringing, okay? It says white customers with the same credit scores, this was not an issue of the minority borrower having lower credit scores, subsequently receiving a higher interest rate, which is what one might expect. It was a matter of hundreds of thousands of borrowers being given interest rates that was far higher than they otherwise would have been given. In fact, Bank of America's countrywide financial division steered Black and Latino borrowers into high-risk subprime loans with draconian rates and terms, even though they qualified for prime. These borrowers ended up paying tens of thousands of dollars more including upfront costs, than their white counterparts with similar credits. You say, Tim, you keep mentioning back, but it said Latino. This is a black man wrote this. I'm speaking of right now from a bibliocentric point of view of people that had already been over here enslaved over 200 years. At this time, about maybe 350 years, what you were doing to them, as opposed to somebody that came over here subsequently. Okay, let's don't get unjust in understanding that the one that has been treated unjust longer should be able to have a greater weight when it comes to having things done right. Okay. Wells Fargo. I want you to hear this one. Wells Fargo, another massive bank, was also sued by the Justice Department and paid $175 million to settle accusations that independent brokers discriminated against Black and Hispanic borrowers. Wells Fargo charged 30,000 minority buyers higher interest rates and higher interest fees associated with borrowing than white borrowers with the same credit. They also steered 4,000 minority borrowers into costly interest rate subprime loans, while white borrowers with the same credit risk were given prime rate loans. In Chicago, listen, Black borrowers almost paid $3,000 more in fees for for a $300,000 loan than white borrowers with the same credit. Wells Fargo was so aggressive, according to Elizabeth Jacobson, that one of the bank's top producing subprime loan officers at Wells Fargo paid its loan officers 3 to 4 times more, in other words, steering it, more for subprime loan than for prime loans. And they had a goal of having the subprime division pay the entire fixed cost for the entire company, and specifically targeted Black churches because it figured that Black churches had a lot of influence and could convince congregants to take out subprime loans. Same thing that man did in that movie that I was watching about that the Undertaker did with the graves. Now, what he says, now suppose that you've completed your home acquisition process and you are a newly homeowner, and the majority of your personal household net worth will be the value of your home. And he goes on, and I can read that later, but he just says Black people and the percentage of Black people in a neighborhood, it increases between a 10% gap in the appreciation. In other words, the value of your house go up, they lessen how much the value of your property goes up when you do that. Then it says Washington University found Black homeowners receive 18% less value for their homes per dollar of income than white owners. The gap also clearly exists between Black and white neighborhoods with equal income levels. Now it says, I don't want to read all of this, so let me just come down here and just read the yellow part. If you do receive a loan, you are more likely to be charged higher fees and interest than your white peers with similar credit scores. Do you think Jesus don't see color when this happens? Do you think he doesn't know why it happens? Do you think he doesn't see the injustice and the extortion? Well, look at this part out here. So let's take a look at the numbers. Suppose you purchase a home for $450,000. Since you are 3 times more likely to receive a loan with higher interest rate than is actually consistent with your credit worthiness, you could receive an interest rate that could cost you an additional $144,000 over the life of the loan. If you charge higher fees, $3,000 using Wells Fargo model, that could cost you an additional $13,000. And it says if you live in the neighborhood, talks about the neighborhood with the 10% and above and 18% less, another 190,000 over 30 years. So being Black, it could cost you an additional 345,000. When it's talked about Black people don't pull themselves up by their bootstraps, or that they're just lazy, why they don't have anything. These are some of the things that people should be able to look at. And he says, if you think that the appreciation gap on African American tax become massive, African Americans owned an estimated 1.4 trillion of real estate, and the vast majority of that real estate communities where they live, more than 10% of the population. This means that Black Americans could have in total about 317 billion. They do the same thing with cars. They taught the people, Black and white, how to negotiate cars. And they found that there's a difference in buying cars. And once they taught them this is going to tell you how much they get. So let's get you to that point. It says, what was found is that dealers offered Black male testers, and let's tell you who's doing this. This is the economists Ian Ayers and Peter Siegelman. They conducted the study to understand the differences in how dealerships treat potential car buyers of different races. Black, white is what we're talking about. They found that dealers offered Black male testers significantly higher prices than white male testers, even when the testers used identical bargaining strategies. As a matter of fact, a salesman gave white buyers an initial price that was 43% lower than the initial price they gave the Black male buyers before any negotiation took place. To be clear, the final price was negotiated by the Black buyer was higher than the initial price given to white. Hamstringing, extortion, just cause you a color. It says Black male buyers end up paying an average $1,100 more than their white male counterparts. Black buyers also paid higher prices in suburbs, in the inner city. It goes through and it shows the same thing on the money that you borrow, a 0.5% more. And then it shows that there was companies sued for that. Let me show you. It says below is a list of auto companies that have been sued by the Justice Department for charging Black automotive borrowers higher rates than their white counterparts. Toyota 2016, they paid $22 million because dealers charged Black buyers 27% more interest. It's 0.027% interest in whites with similar credit ratings. Honda sued by the Justice Department. They paid $24 million. Dealers charge Black buyers more interest than whites with similar credit risk. Allied Financial, GMAC. GMAC, I want you to understand, GMAC is the same GMAC here when we talk about when you worked at General Motors. Dealers charge Black buyers 0.25% more interest than whites with similar credit risk. 235,000 car buyers were overcharged, so they had to pay $98 million. Fifth Third Bank sued by the Justice Department. They charged Black and Hispanics more interest rates. They paid $18 million. In the above GMAC, currently Ally Financial transgressions were particularly egregious. A study by Vanderbilt business professor Mark Cohen found that borrowers from GMAC paid an average of $1,229 in extra interest over the life of the loan, compared with the average of $867 paid by whites. The discrepancies were so widespread that even Black General Motors employees paid more than their white counterparts to get a loan. Cohen reports claims that GMAC borrowers were charged an additional $421.6 million in substantive markups, and nearly 20% was paid by Blacks, even though they were only 8.5% of the borrowers. He does the same thing with insurance, etc. Online commerce, what they did was they had a group of people that did the same thing, and they would sell like a baseball card. They put specifically a baseball card. One that was worth a lot. And they had a white hand showing the card. They had another one, the Black hand showing the card. And you would see the difference in the price that people were willing to give the Black hands versus the white hand. They did the same thing with Airbnb. Some of them couldn't be accepted because you had to give a profile with your picture. They go through and they talk about lawyers, how many millions of dollars that they lose for being Black. And how do they know? They used a thing that would write up reports that would have spelling errors. They would do some spelling errors, some grammar errors, and things like that. And they gave the name, a fictitious name. I think the guy was named Meyer. And I'm not going to read all of that. But what happened is the one that was Black, they said he probably won't even make it in the legal field. Same thing. And they gave another one that was white. They gave him a rating of a 4, which 5 is the highest. And that he would do pretty good and it would work out and he could eventually be a partner. They did the same thing with doctors and showed how many millions of dollars that they would lose over a career. This is what exists today. But what I'm going to show you in part 2, because I want you in part 2, because people say this stuff is not done anything now. But in part 2, I'm going to show you that when Field Order 15 that was given by Sherman in the Emancipation Proclamation, 40 acres and a mule, what that land not only would have been worth, but how it would have saved our people. Because I'm going to take more time to read next time, because I've already given you my construct about if Jesus can't see color. I've already shown you how those that were released should have been treated. I've already shown you what restitution is. So when one says, when you tell them about this, we don't owe you nothing, I'm not going to feel guilty. A lot of this was done by our government. A lot of this was done, and let alone dealing with employers. But he goes through and show that when they rescinded this, and even I forgot what Thaddeus' first name is, but I'll talk about it then. They said, give them land. They took the land that the Black people got after the war, and they took it from them and gave it to people that fought against the United States, that had seceded from the United States, and gave them all of that wealth and gave them everything. And yet, people say there's no racism. And 3 years after they decided not to give the 40 acres and a mule, the mule was to be able to plow their own land, because he's going to go through and show that out of all of the craftsmen, 70% of the craftsmen with skills were Black. And they're going to hamstring them and not let them work. They're going to hamstring them and oppress them. And when they get ready to set up what is called equal but separate, they're going to make schools to teach them menial jobs so that they can't do the craft work anymore. They're going to give them to Irishmen, etc. I'll give you more information. But the thing is, 3 years after they decided not to give that, let's read this a little bit before I close. After the emancipation, there was some talk about giving recently freed slaves 40 acres of land and a mule. The concept of 40 acres go back to Special Field Order number 15, which was issued January 16, 1865 by General William T. Sherman. This is a great time if you want to learn some really stuff that affects us so hard today. The rest of it does too, but this is when they were really putting it down on us. It's called a period of Reconstruction. In this concept, 40 acres had been extended to all newly freed slaves. It would have led to redistribution of 160 million acres of land to newly freed Black people. At this time, when they did this, what happened is they put the slaves out with nothing. And they used to say, root or die, nigger root or die. In other words, when a hog and they rooting in the ground. Huh?
I said,
Well, I used to hear them do it.
I know it. I did too, sweetie. I heard it too.
And it's a root or die.
Yes.
So January 16, 1865 by William T. Sherman. Actually, my wife was the first one who taught me this. But it says in this concept, 40 acres had been extended to all newly freed slaves. It would have led to redistribution of 160 million acres of land to newly freed Black people. At a Republican convention in Pennsylvania, Thaddeus Stevens,
That's who you were looking for.
yep,
Yeah.
It said a staunch abolitionist called for the taking of 400 million acres from former slaveholders to provide some compensation and assets to those once enslaved. Listen to this. This land would have allowed former slaves to be able to produce enough food and services to provide for their basic needs, with any surplus allowing for the accumulation of wealth. It would have provided former slaves with a modest ability to begin to recover from 17 generations of involuntary, listen to the word, uncompensated servitude. The mule would have provided for means of transportation and the ability to multiply manual labor of the newly freed people.
Stop there. Stop there, sweetie. Stop there.
Why?
I'm asking because
Asking why?
that's a poignant. If you can hone in on that, that there was some modicum of justice suggested. If you could start right there. And you can expound on just that, because when we spoke, you talked about extortion and how we had been taken away from whatever we earned, it was given away, and whatever we earned, we had to pay. It was extorted out of us. When you talked about victims, the other side of that is the victimization that you mentioned. To victimize people, this is a lot to ingest. That's what I'm saying. It's a lot to take in. So, like if you can summarize what you've already taught, it'll help, because even it's overwhelming for me, and I know this stuff. I know a lot of these things, but you're putting it you're putting it together in a way that it's a little, it's like, oh, I can see it in the bigger picture. So that's what I'm asking. You don't have to do it. You don't have to do it, but that's what I'm asking. And you can grant it.
What
It
did
won't.
you what did you grasp up until now that I was trying to accomplish?
The very thing you told me from the beginning.
Okay.
You said extortion.
Yes.
You talked about extortion. I said, well, I didn't remember that. Remember we had this conversation? I was
Mhm.
like, what did the teacher you say about extortion? And I was like, oh, I didn't remember that. And I said, you have to know that we're not taught this. Like, to see it as extortion, to understand when they say victim, oh, you playing a victim, but there's a victimizer. And so with victimization, and that's a word you used during your talk,
Mm-hmm.
and to understand that if we look that up, we understand that there's something unfair that's happening. To victimize. So it's always put back on the people who are the oppressed people, the people who are pushed down, like you said in Psalms 9. Those people, if you read the entire psalm, it says that. And read the next one, 10 too. Psalm 9 and Psalm 10, you start understanding what what it is to be victimized. So we're not playing the victim. Oh, we're not saying, oh, we're being treated badly and there's no evidence. The proof is on the people who victimized us, who decided it. Look it up in Merriam-Webster, look it up in the Oxford Dictionary. What it means to victimize someone. Can you do that, sweetie, please?
About Psalms 10.
No, look up in the Oxford Dictionary. Merriam-Webster,
Okay.
victimize.
Okay. So you had said something about Psalms 10, and
No,
that
I said, I was repeating. You said Psalm 9. You
right,
gave Psalm 9.
correct.
And I think it was 9 and 17. I'm not sure.
It was 9, 17, and
But
18.
the entire psalm is talking about what you're talking about.
Okay, so now I'm in the Oxford Dictionary. What word do you want me to look up in Oxford? Victim again?
Victimized.
Okay, victim. Let me put an IZE on it. You see, verb, victimize, verb, single someone out for cruel or unjust treatment.
See?
Victimizer. And
See,
that,
listen, we don't have to play victim. We only need to point out our victimizers. If we say, look at what they've done, and this is exactly what you're doing, right?
absolutely.
You singled some people out. Isn't that what it say?
It's what it
To
said.
single someone out for cruel and unjust treatment.
Blacks
It's
were to be the property that served whites, and the whites were to be the only beneficiaries of the new country that they created.
there you go. So we don't have to act exactly like tell people, oh, we've been victims. We're victims. We're victims. No. All we need to do is point to the people who decided, like you said, that evolution should be taught in your schools. That the whole American school system should be taught that Black people are lesser people. Go to Answers in Genesis, Answers in Genesis, and they'll say the same thing, and they don't look like us.
No, they don't. Ken Ham looks nothing like us.
They're not Black like us. These are white people who would be categorized as Black people. I mean, white people. They are saying the same thing. That this whole social construct, as you pointed out in the beginning, was set up to victimize us. So now when we say we're victims, oh, you're not, oh, you're just trying to say something bad happened to you. No, you singled us out. You singled us out for cruel and unjust treatment. And this is what my husband has been saying throughout this entire podcast, video, however you hear it, Facebook post. That's what he's been saying. It's true. It has happened. And if we don't learn to see it for what it is, we think we're going to choose some side of government. We're going to choose the Democrat Party. Well, I think they're going to do the best for us. We're going to choose the Republican Party. Well, maybe we should go to them because the other one hasn't done anything. There's a third choice.
I'm trying to make this thing be quiet. Now, go ahead.
There's a third choice. And it should be your first choice.
Mm-hmm.
It should be your first choice because you go into these churches every Sunday and you do everything and you pray and you dance and you cry and you sing songs and you give your money. And shouldn't it be the first thing that you do? That you trust the Most High. And y'all call him Jesus and the Lord and God, but he has a name. They have a name. These things have been given to us through what my husband said, a social construct.
It's sad. And
And if you
one of the things that I did when I first started learning, and it just didn't seem like it was all of that to it. And I would look in bibliographies and I would go and see if what they were saying was right. Sometimes I had a feeling it was right, but something was so weird to me and reading in Dr. Claude Anderson's books, he would say in 1705 this happened. The first 57 Supreme Justices did this. This president did this. And I would like, for real? And I'd go look it up, try to prove it wrong. And I'd see more and more and more. And then I learned, I own a book called The Color of Law. And it goes in and it shows this kind of stuff that I'm talking about, which was the first affirmative action. The things that they did to affirm whiteness over blackness.
Yes.
Be able to get extortion and laws in the favor
Mm-hmm.
of whiteness over blackness. And to say that your Jesus doesn't see color. He can't be my savior because he couldn't see that the construct was made for you to beat people out of their lives. And yet you have the ability when it comes to other people. You can look over there in what you call the Middle East and you can call yourself going to do justice and send money. You can do things to all other people, and we'll go deeper into it. But the point was being made. I wanted to at least show that there are some things that still go on now that you haven't looked at. I haven't even talked to Dr. Claude Anderson say they infuse everything in your social norms, and in your social norms, what they do is they deal with legal
Uh-huh.
into how they made system where we can't get what we want from you like we used to. We're gonna make new laws, and even if you're not guilty, we're gonna sentence you so long that you'll say, well, if it's just 2 or 3 months, I'll go ahead and plead guilty. And now we rent you out and we recapture slavery under a different name.
You know, the truth is they found a way to get along with each other.
Yes,
They found a way, and this is profound because we need to understand this too. They found a way to get along with each other, to do just enough to please both sides.
yes,
You had both sides that came to a civil war. Please see this. That came to a civil war. They had to come to some compromise that we'll give with the right hand, we'll take away with the left one. So we'll give them something in public and we'll say, oh, Black people are part of society. Oh, they're great. But with the other hand, they'll take away that what they just said and then more. That we'll create a 94 crime bill to say that, you are the ultimate criminal and you're not, and that it's still based on what you look like. You're still criminalized, victimized based on what you look like, because that was the social and is the social construct, the same one that they're still teaching in their school system right now. And they say, oh, we don't know what's wrong. You do. You're lying. And they want to, and they victim. Everybody's playing a victim, but they're not talking about Black people. Trust me. Everybody else has been dumped into the Black category.
right.
Transgender people, homosexuals, y'all just dumped everything over here. But it wasn't just because you wanted to dump everything over here, it's because you wanted us to disappear. Because we actually have a real
Grievance.
grievance. We
And
actually have a real grievance.
And the thing is that as long as the children of Israel kept crying out, when the fullness of the measure of Egypt, that nation that would oppress Abraham's seed, came to fruition, the Most High acted.
Yes.
Just like when our people did the same thing. I believe Paul talked about it in Thessalonians. They're going to fill up their measure. They're against everybody. When they filled up their measure, the Most High did what he said he was going to do in Deuteronomy and Leviticus. He scattered us.
Yes, but they
But
all
we're
know
being
it.
scattered for a reason. Once we turn back,
That's it.
we are going to be the lights. Because how did they get over? How did they overcome? They didn't own the satellites. They own none of the
They did it
sectors
through
of
violence.
none of the sectors of the economy. And yet they overcame. And
Who overcame?
we will.
Oh, I thought you was talking about the people who overcame us.
No, the Most High God are going to allow us to overcome when we turn back like he did the Egyptian, just like he allowed us,
Okay.
giving us a chance to come back with the Persians. But we're the ones that
We
didn't
won't do it. We
celebrate the
won't
other
do
people's
it.
holidays, and we don't want to do what he says.
That's what he said. You're going to get here and you're going to enjoy these people so much that you're going to do like they do. And you must know this one thing: you can't get away with it.
No.
You cannot get away with living how these people live. You cannot get away with living how the nations live. The nations are under judgment. And if you go and place yourself under that, because it seems like they're having the most fun. That's why I said when you read from Psalms 9, if you continue in Psalms 10, read all of Psalms 9, read all of Psalms 10, because you start understanding the nations are under judgment. And we're placing ourselves under this same judgment. When we love their ways, oh, we love the way you entertain. Oh, we love your music. Oh, we love your movies. Oh, we love everything you do. The cars you drive, the prestige you have, the honor you receive. If you have the highest places in government, in restaurants, it doesn't matter. You start honoring wickedness. Oh, we start honoring wickedness. And we know better than this. We were called to holiness, to be separated, to be a kingdom of righteousness. And you wonder why the world why the world looking like it's looking. Because you sat down with the devil and you made a deal too. And if I could watch my sports, World Cup, Super Bowl, NBA Finals, NCAA, whatever you watch, whatever you do, you're not engaged. And you don't care about your children being engaged in the kingdom, until they're swept away in it. Until your daughter is swept away in a party where she is over in college and she goes to a party and she is violated. And now it's, oh, I don't know. But you allowed that.
Mm.
You allowed that. We've been swept away. We have been wooed by the image. And we want it. And it's like, oh, look at it. It's so glamorous. Look at how they're together and they're drinking champagne and look at how they're dressed. You've been swept away with this wickedness. Now you're finding out that it's vile, but you're probably not going to separate from it. You still holding on to it. You're trying to figure out who you can, you know, somebody who's not really with it, and maybe I can just get one person, one fallout, because you've been so engulfed in it. And I mean engulfed in it, like fire.
Mm.
Are you still doing it? And you still think it's glory to be found in that. And it's like, oh, I just don't want to be wrong that I like Beyonce. I just don't want to be wrong that I like Taylor Swift. I just don't want to be wrong that I love P. Diddy. I don't want to be wrong that I loved, T.D. Jakes, Tyler Perry, whoever you name. And then you still call yourself a Christian, and I believe you.
Yes.
I so believe you. You are so a Christian.
You're like the people that founded this land.
Yes. You love it to be that way.
Listen to Proverbs 30 and 31. I mean 3 and 31. Envy not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways. For the devious person, is an abomination to Yahweh, but his secret, his counsel, his sod is with the righteous. The curse of Yahweh is in the house of the wicked, but he blesseth the habitation of the just, the Sadiq, the righteous one. Surely he scorneth the scorners, but he giveth grace to the lowly.
Hey.
The wise shall inherit glory, but shame shall be the promotion of fools. That's where I'm going to stop, Andrina, because I want to build upon this more. And the way that Sean has it set up in sectors, and by me being familiar with it, I can go in and out. But I really want people to see the foundations that this country was set up with and how it has gone down to us. I don't plan to ever not be able to show this, because if we don't hear the Most High in our oppression, will find other ways. We'll give ourselves limits that He doesn't give us to be able to effect change. We need Him, but we need to get out from under the thumb of the oppressor to be able, as Dr. Claude Anderson said, what do? It says they form the social construct and the perception of and the relationship between groups. They do the same thing. They form the perception of and the relationship between us and our God, because they've given us a God that's not the God of the scriptures, our Elohim that's not. It becomes a part of our culture. You're running around, jacking around on the floor, spinning and jerking and spitting and all of this. It becomes a part of our culture, infused into our social norms, practices in every part of society, including legal. They have formed a construct that we're crying and screaming so we can kill our own babies in the womb. The very thing that our ancestors cried about and mourned about. And the legal and educational, they cried that we can learn. They determined we're going to give you an educational system. Sean's going to show it, that you will be better service than ever. And so what happens is we haven't learned the social construct of the Father.
Well, can I, if you'll permit me, just lastly give a definition, because
A definition of what?
victimized, because we
I use the word interchangeably with oppressed, without the power
can I
and
just give the
authority.
Oxford Dictionary version, and I want to give the words that they used as synonyms for it. Can I do that?
I'm just pulling.
I'm gonna save it for the next time.
No, it just give me a minute to pull that back open. Oxford. There it is. Can you see it?
I cannot.
Victimized out of cruel or unjust treatment. That's the victimized.
Can I read it, sweetie? Can I read it?
What? I thought you said you couldn't see it.
I can't see it on yours, but I can see it on my screen.
Oh, okay.
Go for it.
Okay. It says dictionary. Definitions from Oxford Languages. Victimize. Past tense victimize. Past participle victimize. Single someone out for cruel or unjust treatment. And they give an example here. They say scam artists who victimize senior citizens. Now, if you have an elderly parent, a grandparent, you know that we've had encounters with people who want to sell them things, insurance, security, and they victimize them. We should understand this, especially in the Black community. But let me give you some synonyms, some similar words that pertain to victimize. Exploit. Now we know we have had in the 60s and the 70s Black exploitation cinema, where Black people they were the pimps, they were the drug dealers. This is where it all started with our image. To prey on, take advantage of, swindle, dupe, cheat, trick, hoodwink. We heard the Honorable Malcolm X say you've been hoodwinked. This comes from victimized, double crossed, defrauded, persecuted. We know that's biblical. Pick on, push around, lean on, bully, abuse, discriminate against. And I'll stop there, sweetie, because I want to be sure that you're okay with it. I'll stop there.
I was fine. I mean, I think sometimes it's good for people to see that I don't have to talk. Uh, because sometimes people they'll be married and the wife just be sitting there looking weird, or she might clap her hand like, or she be got all these clothes on. They calling her first lady, but first of what? I believe that what we really need to understand is that there comes a time that we as people, we need to have our eyes together as husband and wife so that these things can be done. So I appreciate it because I would have opened up the discussion. You'd have said the same thing. So I want to make sure that Gary did, if we didn't pique something inside of him, Gary, did we pique you?
No, it's good. What makes it easy is that all the systems are one complete system. I know that sounds like I'm speaking um like I don't know what the word, like I'm not making sense paradoxically or something. I don't know if that's the word. But when you have a church that is supposed to be protecting and serving on the behalf of the Father, you got that. And then you have something like the Masons group, where you have every particular portion of society from the religious sector, political sector, educational sector, military sector, all of these sectors, and you got people that's taken care of, kind of like your Harvard system. You can go to school for Harvard, pay lots and lots of money, and you can go somewhere else and get the same thing, but they take care of their own with perks and stuff. You have that, and then what happens is you can help hide what's obvious, but because like some people say you don't know what's in my heart, and like, well, you fail to understand that we can see by your actions, cause a tree produces a fruit. But
Mm-hmm.
because I can't tear your body open and look in your heart, which is an expression for your mind and your will, then they feel protected by that. So when you have these systems that are what's the word I'm looking for? They're not. It's like the wind you were talking about earlier. The wind could touch us in a sense we can't touch the wind. It is there. So
Mm-hmm.
people feel safe. They feel safe in that. But the Red Sea, um, when the Lord determines it will close, it will close. So
that thing about not saying I like that. I was looking at something the other day, and this girl was speaking against it, and she had some good points. But yeah, it's they try to use that scripture, which is like out of place. There's neither male nor, that's one that they really trying to. I wish people would just leave the Bible alone. They really need to leave the Bible alone because
Free Greek or Jew.
yeah, I'm like, you have no idea. Well, even if you do, you know what you're doing. Some of them, some of them don't care what it means. They think it will help get. It's like an escape. What is that? Monopoly? Get out of jail.
Yeah.
They think it's going to help.
Get out of jail free card.
Yeah, they think it's going to help them, and I'm like, and that's really just to like, well, we like what we got. We want to keep what we got, and you leave us alone, and you shut up and go and like what you.
That's
Go
true.
sit down. It's like back in the day we would have the adult table at the gathering and the little children go sit over here at the card table. Y'all little children, y'all go sit at the card table.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
little children gonna be permitted into the kingdom,
yeah, it's
and your bastard behind gonna be cast out. So you can see it. You like there are things that are happening in this realm now. Like we've read about them.
Mhm.
We can read about oppression, and it doesn't dawn on us when we're reading about it that that's exactly what's happening to us. That we can't tell the truth without being castigated, cast out. We got to be cast out of the church. We our jobs. We lose everything when you tell the truth.
Mhm.
We don't think about that when we read scripture. I know in the beginning, you try your best to apply scripture to yourself. Like I see people moan and groan and be displeased with the Lord. And I was telling Tim the last time we spoke, I saw people die for what I do, like but for what I've done. I've murmured, but I hadn't seen that mountain that they saw. They didn't. I didn't see that whole display of His glory. I didn't
Mhm.
see the priests and Moses go up and Joshua. I didn't see all of that, but I understood something, that there is a duty that I have, and even reading it and understanding it, that power still exists. It didn't go away when it stopped on that mount. That power still exists. And if we don't recognize that power, oh, we're going to be so lazy. We're going to be sorry. And it's so bad. And they say, well, when you say stuff, you're victim, victim. No, I've been victimized. You have treated me in a disgraceful way that I didn't deserve. And you did it based on my skin color. But when we read in scripture, we understood something opposite of that, didn't we? We understood that somebody stuck their hand in their coat in their cloak and it came out white. How did it come out white and it wasn't white? It wasn't white because it was black. Something happened to Miriam that she could continue because she was turned white, leprosy. But even scripture says that if you are all white, you're clean. But we understand that don't mean that to them. They don't know how to read. They just offended. They just offended that we were all black. Just offended. And we had to put you somewhere for you to still exist. If you couldn't take the sun, we had to put you somewhere. We had to cover you up. Look at how the Arabs are dressed. You would think, how they have all that stuff on them and it's hot out there? How can they bear it? You know how you hot when you have a jacket on somewhere and the temperature changes, right? And it gets hotter. How were they all wrapped up? How are they still wrapped up? Everybody's still wrapped up. Why? Because the sun is fierce and your skin can't take it. But in other parts that are equatorial, close to the equator is what I mean, they can be naked, can't they? They cannot have anything on and they can just be out there and they can work and they can breathe the air and they can exist. The mindset of the people that saw these things, who decided to travel throughout the earth and to see what was happening everywhere else. There was an envy that you people with this skin and yet this dark skin, y'all can exist everywhere. And you are everywhere. We don't like it. And it's a mental thing. Something happens to your mind that you can't even see people enjoying themselves because you're so worried about your existence. As our mother, sister, Joy DeGrew, she said it. What's our other sister's name, Tim?
Frances Cress Welsing.
Frances Cress Welsing. Yes, I should have mentioned her first. That they have something that's going on with them that we don't have. And because we don't have it, we don't sense the urgency. But that was a good lesson, sweetie. I appreciate it.
I'm gonna read one more thing to you all because for those that don't know it, my wife knows it. There was a time when I was more interested in politics than I am now, and I had listened to a man by the name of Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, Mark Levin. I listened to a lot of people, and I remember people used to get upset with me. It's like I'm a grown man. I listen to what I want to listen to. You listen to what you want to listen to. I already know what you listen to because I'm around you. But I want you to see something because I think it's very important for you to see it.
Okay.
This is from a man by the name of Sean Hannity. But some people I mention that name and it's like it's a trigger. It's like, why should it be a trigger?
It
Why,
should be.
why, why
Black
should the
people.
person look at that and say, I can listen to this man, I can just about know what so many people think before I even talk to them because many times they get their marching orders from people like him. But let me give you something that he said. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, when
Yes.
you look at my screen, there is the cover of the book. Live free.
Live free or die.
Yes, and in this you'll hear him
Look
moan.
at that flag. That flag is torn. Look at that.
You'll hear him mourn. You'll see him get to be a victim because they didn't like what the other side was doing. But I want you to see what the Lord was letting me see because I want you to taste it. This is
Okay.
just one section. It says reparations.
Uh-huh.
It says it seemed like a lifetime ago, but a few years back, both Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama spoke out against slavery reparations. For the left, I feel like I'm hearing buzzing. Do you
It
hear
might be my phone, sweet. I'm a mute it because it's probably my phone.
this? See, it stopped. Okay. It's Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama spake out against slavery reparations. For the left, because he's what they call the right, which thrives on racial conflict,
identity politics, and perpetual victimhood, the Civil War, civil rights laws, and even the election of an African American president are irrelevant. They can never be sufficient atonement, but attempts must be made in the form of cold, hard cash. I think I'll deal with that on my next class. It says the idea of slavery reparation has been around since the 1860s. Obviously, they've done nothing about it. And we're talking about how many years, Tim Merritt? We're talking about 146. And demagogues have given the proposal new life in recent years. It's an awful idea that prioritizes race over individual character and fosters an us against them mentality, which the left thrives on and which greatly damages race relations, the white with power, the black to serve, and all the benefits to them. It damages race relations. It is patronizing and treats people as perpetual victims.
Oh, you got to stop right there. You got to stop. You got to stop. You got to talk right there. Talk. Say the rest for later. You got to talk about that. Just that statement.
Well, see, this is why when I tell people and they argue with me about Trump, Bush, and all that, I said, go back to the foundings and you watch when they cry to be victims and you watch
Uh,
injustice. It would he's saying it's unjust for us to do what the Most High God, and that you will be a perpetual victim. If we leave it like it is, you will be a perpetual victim in every sector or every status of life, education, financial, legal, interest rates, homes, mortgages, cars, insurance, because the system was set up.
He even said himself.
Yes, this
It's
is
been around since 1860.
this is why it's. I used to tell people things, and I would say some things that Republicans say. They would shut me down because I've listened to Sean. But it's like I got other books. I got
Then he gonna tell
spaces
us
that
we
don't
give
make
it
me
no
lazy.
way.
So,
Oh, this is awful. Oh,
but this
this
is
is
the side
incredible.
that evangelical Christianity often takes.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Sean Hannity is a Christian. He'll tell you he's a Christian and a great American. You're a great American.
Yeah, he is.
I'm a Christian. I'm not as good a Christian as some people, but I am a good Christian.
And he is a Christian with a talk show, though.
Huh?
He's a Christian with a talk show
Yes.
that influences other people. So he is better than other Christians, isn't he?
Yeah.
Because you've been promoted to that status that whatever you say should go out in the earth
He
to
evangelizes.
be broadcasted.
Yes. So
And so this is the same piece of trash that had
Bruce Jenner, come on.
Bruce Jenner and say he is the woman of the year. You are the same one. And this is why we know that this system can't be for us because it doesn't represent us in any way.
But think about this little one. Because you the first one brought that one up to me.
Yes, sir.
You get to be able to give the narrative of what is. And if you say Bruce Jenner is the woman of the year,
Yes, yes. Look, you can't say Bruce Jenner, you have to say Caitlyn.
They are
No, no,
God,
no.
y'all.
they are.
Let's say
You
Caitlyn and
forgot
Bruce
about them.
Jenner.
So
Mm-mm.
they can have their world.
Hannity said, "Let there be."
Yes, there
Mm-mm.
was. 'Cause- And not only Hannity, they got another one now, and he brings a lot of scripture in it, and his name is Eric Erickson.
You
Mm-mm.
get on my nerves.
Oh,
Just get on my nerves.
So
turtle.
Mm-mm-mm.
so you all pray.
Turtly.
He's the new Rush Limbaugh. That's what they tried to do with him.
Well,
He's so turtly. You can't even take
Hmm
him seriously. But
But you all pray that.
But they get the airways, don't they?
Yep.
But you all.
Pay attention to who gets the airwaves.
Yep.
But you all.
They killed your little black man a few years ago.
Mm,
Herman Cain, yeah,
They killed him dead.
yeah,
he dead, yeah.
the pandemic.
He must have turned over a new leaf, and they decided we gonna turn you over like a leaf and make you dead. It like, it's
Them news nuggets fell off the table.
I have forgot
because
news nugget.
remember he had did a singing one time.
Yeah, I think he did at Antioch Baptist Church in Atlanta, preaching at Atlanta.
No.
I want you all to pray for Tim that the Most High God will allow me to at least get people to see that what has been brought to us is Christianity. It is so far from
Mhm.
what y'all wanted, but it uses the same word, and then in the middle it said, "You won't surely die if you skip this part. You won't surely die if you get rid of the Oldest Testament."
Yep.
You all, go ahead.
I'm gonna commit to praying for you for that because I already do, but
Thank you, precious.
it's turning out to be that this ain't the hour for that. Either they accept it or they refuse. It's not so many. You can't keep going back. Like we've been going through, with Gary when he's going through Corinthians. You may not be able to go back. You may not be able to revisit a person and to reiterate the truth to them. You have to be satisfied with your first encounter now. You do. And you got to bring it. You have to bring it.
Is that what you call the thunder?
You got to bring the thunder. You got to bring the noise. I'm telling you, what he brought to the children of Israel on the mount, you got to bring it. And no matter what they say, like he told Jeremiah, don't be dismayed at their faces. I'm going to tell you from the beginning, these jokers not going to listen to you, but say it. You have to say it. This is the hour to just say it. Now, if you're afraid, don't say it. Go home and cry in your bedroom, on the floor, in the bathroom, wherever you do it. Go cry. And hopefully the Lord will forgive you for not being strong in this hour. But I doubt it. Because he said the fearful and the unbelieving, you're not going to make it. You're going to be outside with the dogs. This is the hour. How long did we think we were going to be studying and learning and growing and building our muscles and strengthening ourselves in the Lord, and we wouldn't have to flex them? At some point, we're going to have to punch somebody. And I don't mean physically, okay? I mean spiritually. Again, they come to punching somebody physically too. But right now, you gotta punch somebody. Do it. Because they're looking at you. And I'm talking to people that look like me. Kind of like me, in the vicinity of me. It's time. Stop worrying about whether you're going to lose or keep your job. That's not it. It's you losing or keeping your life. As in what our Mashiach said. You know the people that keep their life. You know the people that lose their lives. You know. You know what he said. It's too hot out here for us. It's on fire already. It's on fire already, and we already know it with every encounter we have. There's a fire already been set, and you find yourself like, oh, I got to put it out. Is it a way to put it out and make it burn at the same time? Burn out if you need to burn out. We have to be the hammer. We have to be the fire in the bones. We got to be that. There is no righteousness. Truth is falling in the streets. Is that Jeremiah or Isaiah? Which one is it,
Both of
Tim?
them got one like that one, so I think
Yeah.
it's Isaiah.
Truth is falling.
God, I know Jeremiah says in 5, can he just find a man?
Can he find a man? Okay, it's Isaiah. Truth is falling. Is it the 5th chapter?
I don't remember the chapter. You stumped me. I could look it up, but it's in there.
I'm asking both of y'all. Like,
I was thinking Jeremiah 5, but I didn't think it was that. I know because that's what he started asking God, like, the rich and so forth, and the noble, I think.
I'll just look it up.
Isaiah. Judge Isaiah 59. Oh, I was so off.
No, but
I was way off.
oh yeah, I told you that sound like one of both. I mean, both of them dealing with the same issue.
Judgment is turned away backward, and justice standeth afar off, for truth is falling in the street,
And
and
equity
equity
cannot enter.
cannot enter. This is what you were talking about, sweetie.
Amirs, that's what little children say. Amirs.
That's exactly what you were saying.
Well,
Listen, the next verse, and I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read this last verse in ESV. I'm gonna read both of them. Okay, is it okay?
yes, ma'am.
Okay. This is in ESV. Justice is turned back, and righteousness stands far away. For truth has stumbled in the public squares, and uprightness cannot enter. Truth is lacking, and he who departs from evil makes himself a prey. Here's the glory. The Lord saw it, and it displeased him that there was no justice. Glory.
And now I'm going to show you something. Okay, so when you see that, and it says he saw that there was no man, and wondered that there was none to intercede. Then his own arm brought salvation, and his righteousness upheld him. This is why I said it reminded me of Jeremiah, run ye to and fro in the streets of Jerusalem, and see now and seek in the broad places thereof, if you can find a man, if there would be any that would execute judgment and that seeketh truth, and I will pardon it. So what you end up having is, before the first captivity, Isaiah, the Assyrians, and Jeremiah during the captivity of Judah, same problem. So what's
Testimony is true.
get no truth?
The
Can't
testimony is true, though. Like you got, when they say 2 or 3 witnesses, let everything be established.
yes.
2 witnesses, they're saying the same thing.
So
And I don't care if it's at a different time. I don't care if it's at the same time. It's 2 witnesses. 2 or 3 witnesses, let everything be established.
there was something else. He told Isaiah, they won't hear you. If I'd have sent you to a foreign nation, they would hear you. But these are my people. They won't. He told Jeremiah, they're not going to hear you either. But I'm gonna make your word like fire, and they're gonna be like stubble. And so what happens is, it's not about you how big a crowd you get. It's like he told me 23. He that got my word, let him speak my word.
let him speak it. So,
But the first failure was on our part.
of course,
We're learning that the first failure to comply with what is just and what is justice, it started with us. We decided that these people are not really evil. Maybe they really good somewhere. And maybe if they steal our children and do stuff to them, maybe they don't know what's going on with them. Maybe they need psychiatry. Maybe they need psychologists. Maybe they need mercy. And they stealing our children and they raping them, and they stealing our women and they raping them. And and they coming to us and telling us, well, I could pay you for it. I could give you money for this. And they use extortion. And they said, well, don't you know what you knew that I took her and you said nothing. Can I pay you off? And he warned us not to do what they do. Not just to serve their gods, but they have customs. They have customs that they do to make you succumb to their God. They got a whole ritual that you do, and you go out and you buy presents and you so stupid, and they've already shown you that after, if you wanted presents for your children, if you buy them after this date, they would be so much cheaper. But they got you locked into this system, so you giving your physical, mental energy to something that is totally wrong. It's the same thing as they had us as little children, wrapping a doggone maypole, which is a symbol of a penis. We didn't know we were doing that, but this was an all-black school. And it's fertility. You learned that it was fertility. You're going to be fruitful. And no, but it was because of the white children were doing it in the white schools, and you wanted to do what they were doing.
we have stopped that. And we need to stop it. Just like they say on J.G. Wentworth, I want my money. I want it now. We need to stop this. We need to stop it now. So at least you all know where I plan on going on Sabbath. Be ready. The Lord's will. Andrine, do you think I should put the links in before I finish? Well, we'll talk about it later about, do I want to put the links into the book or wait till I finish and let them go get the book, the links to the book?
Hold your head forward because you looking bald when you lean back.
Yeah, I'm gonna close out. Father, mercy.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry,
Okay.
Stephen. Sorry.
Bless us, keep us, make your glorious face shine upon us. Be gracious to us. We need you and give us yes alone. Amen. Amen and amen. Good night, everybody. Thank you all for joining.
Good night.
Love you all. Love
Love
you
y'all
all.
too. Bye bye.
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 Tim, put that can out by the road if you don't forget.
It's already done.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Carissa Latrice.
Thank you, brother. Love
All
you.
right, love y'all. Bye.
Thank you, Carissa.
Bye.
Thank you, Carissa Latrice. We appreciate you. All right. Good night, Gary.
Good night.
Good night.